Well, welcome to London Borough of Barnet, putting community first. Sponsored by Saracens. Welcome to Edgware, and this is Station Road. This is Boot Parade, and it's called Boot Parade because up until about 1962 there was a pub called The Boot that was on that site. And this, scanning around, this is the A5 Edgware Road, and this goes all the way up through to, up and beyond towards Brockley Hill, on its way to Hertfordshire, Elstree, etc. These buildings here on this stretch composed of a lot of very old buildings, probably the oldest buildings in Edgware. Bit mixed up, but there are some very old buildings there. And over there we have what used to be the Masons' Arms, which is now called Casablanca. Down that road there is Whitchurch Lane and the old Edgware police station, which is not a police station anymore. It's a sort of strange hotel. And that will take you on towards Burnt Oak and Colindale that way. So the reason for doing this video is just to highlight some what's going to be happening in terms of change, almost certainly. And in a way, as boring as this video may very well be, should stand as some kind of document of what will become the past. Sounds a bit highfalutin that, but often these YouTube videos that people do, or any kind of video, when they do them at the time, they don't realise that actually they are acting as a document for the future. And sometimes the stuff that they've shot is not necessarily meant to be that way. So, although I'm not doing this as a sort of amazing piece of work, it is just to go over a few things. So this structure on the other side of the road was originally called the Forum, and in fact it said the Forum on top of that building there was the words the Forum. I don't know how long that lasted for, but pictures from the 60s and 70s don't show it, so it's put up in the 30s. And the Station Road was originally just a sort of path going up to this church, which is in fact St Margaret's. So it only became Station Road when the Great Northern Railway built their station, not the tube station, which is further along. Sorry. This is St Margaret's Church, another old part of Edgware. And despite the best efforts of developers so far, still remains in a nice situation. You'll see this old Tudor-Beaton pub come up. That's called the Railway Hotel. It's been closed for about nearly 20 years. I've done loads of videos on that. I'm not going to go over that again. So I need to point out that although that it's a listed building, that will stay, from then onwards right through to the underground station is going to see a massive new redevelopment, which is being loosely called Edgware Town Centre by the developers Ballymore, who are going to put a conglomeration of about 20 apartment blocks, one of them getting to, I think, 25 stories. So it's a big mass all put into a very small space. Interesting just to point out, if you've seen the videos that I've done on the Railway Hotel, that in fact that is the site of the original Railway Hotel that had been built in the 1870s, I believe, and it was pulled down in 1930 to be replaced by that, the new Railway Hotel. That used to be, until about 10-15 years ago, was the post office. This large building here was put up in about 1962 or thereabouts for Green Shield stamps. This is a collection system. You used to get stamps when you used to go to shops, put them into a book, and then you'd be able to exchange them for gifts. It's a big operation. And it then became Argos, which you will know about. When Green Shield left, and its successor Argos, I think in the 1980s. It was then turned into mixed offices called Premier House, and then about 10 years ago it was turned into apartments. At the moment they're recladding it, because the cladding they put on it originally was done by the same company who did the cladding for Grenfell, and so it's being reclad because obviously it wasn't safe. It's taken long enough. Basically this road is coming out of the Sainsbury's car park, Sainsbury's supermarket. That used to be effectively around about the entrance to the Great Northern Railway station for Edgware, which was put in place I think in the 1860s. That closed in the 1960s, and that's why you have this big office block to replace it. Just swinging around, this is Garden City, which was obviously the developer of this back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, was presumably thinking it was going to be like a garden city, but it didn't really get very far. That's a rather nice little sign here. There was another one of those on the other side of the road. You can see where it was, and I think that was actually older. And you got a bit of ghost sign there as well on the side of Edgware Music. So getting back to the main point of the video, Edgware, this view that you're looking at now, which is pretty grotty, it has to be said, and that's more to do with managed decline and Barnet Council not really taking much stewardship over the area over the last 20-25 years. This view is going to change. So if you think that's quite high, imagine that with about another 10 stories. You're going to get a whole bunch of that in the space occupied to the left of it. These were part of a speculative development that went up in the late 1800s, early 1900s. They were sited so they would be opposite the station. I'm shooting this at about 7:20 on a Wednesday morning. This is in fact actually the 23rd of July, which is the day that Barnet Council will be voting on the Ballymore development. And it is almost a done thing that it will be given the green light. Apparently, Barnet Council handed over £41 million of what was basically ratepayers' money to Ballymore to help with this development. So you can see that it's pretty much a done thing. If they did that, then that was going to happen. So we are now walking through to the car park for Sainsbury's. Exciting stuff, isn't it? But like I said, this video will act as a sort of reference point for anybody who might stumble on it in the future, if YouTube still exists. These are, as it says, brand new homes. They squeezed in this development into land behind what was Premier House. Well, it's still called Premier House. They squeezed all this lot in. It took a very long time to build. It sat with sort of scaffolding all over it for a good few years because the original developer or builder went bust. Still seems to be unoccupied, even though it looked like it'd been finished about a year ago. Don't understand why. Maybe, as someone had pointed out, no one's really want to go and move into a new home that's going to be next to a building site. So much for planning. You would have thought a planning department of a council would have thought about that. It's called Aliyah Court, Amara Court. So yeah, anybody who moves into that place thinking, oh, this is a nice new home, is going to be living in a mass development site. So all this Sainsbury's, that's going to go, or it will stay for the duration of the building project, but they'll have a new one built. That's the Red Hill Clinic. Red Hill is a reference to the area along the Edgware Road where there was in fact a hospital, Red Hill Hospital, which is now Edgware Hospital, or what's left of it. So if I was walking along here, even in the early 1960s, I would have been on railway land. The railway service for passengers out of Edgware, which took you towards Alexandra Palace, that area, North London, had ceased to be a passenger service, I think in the 30s, 1930s, but carried on with sort of small amount of freight through to the 60s. So there are pictures of what this area looked like online. If you go to Disused Stations website, you'll find pictures of it. So all of this is going to be built on, all of this, and they're going to put big blocks all over it. Because you see, some people would say in this day and age that, you know, car parks are a terrible waste of space, and in some ways they are. You can put them underground. And talking of underground, over in that direction is Edgware bus station. As part of this development they're going to put in, the bus station is going to be put underneath the development. And you might think, oh, that's terrible, all fumes, but they're going to be electric buses. That led to another issue, because electric buses, there could be a potential for fire, because as a lot of people know, electric devices can go on fire, and you've got all of this development sat on top of a big bus station, bus garage with electric buses. That could be a problem. So that's sort of given a hesitation, but it's still going to go through almost certainly. This is the back of the Broadwalk Centre and the entrance to Sainsbury's. So the Broadwalk Centre was built on this land in the late 1980s, and I remember it being quite new, and I remember it having a Marks and Spencer's. Marks and Spencer's left, I should think almost 6 years ago. I would go into the Broadwalk Centre, but it's not actually open yet, it's too early. So yeah, Marks and Spencer's left, and the site was taken over by TK Maxx. So the shopping centre has seen a bit of a decline, to put it mildly, but I think Marks and Spencer's must have known in advance what was going to happen with this redevelopment. So you can see it's quite a sizable piece of land, and so from the point of view of a developer, very, very attractive. And something like Ballymore, this is a great opportunity. Ballymore have done big in-town developments in a number of locations, one most notably in Brentford, which is quite impressive, I have to say. But it did mean the destruction of quite a lot of old valued buildings. But there you go, that's the price of progress. And as we're often told, people need homes, and London is short of homes. This is part of the reason why Barnet Council will be almost certainly approving this scheme, because it will give them a nice box ticking exercise for housing numbers. The interesting thing is that Barnet only started being a Labour council a few years ago. It had been a Tory council for many years, and the original Tory administration had supported this scheme, but now the roles are switched over. The Tories are against this scheme, and of course the current administration, the Labour administration for Barnet, they've inherited all of this baggage, and they're going to go along with it. And of course it will keep Sadiq Khan happy, and it will keep Keir Starmer happy, because Keir Starmer's quite clearly quite happy to build all over greenbelt land. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not against building of homes, I'm not against redevelopment of tired areas, but what they are proposing for here is completely out of scale with the area, and it's very high density, and it's going to lead to all sorts of problems. But let's not worry about that, let's just get them built, eh guys? So as you can see, the back of the Boardwalk Centre does sort of betray its age. In terms of its style, in the front of it is very different. So this is where the bus garage is, quite a sizable site, quite an important bus garage actually for the area. There's a lot of buses that go through here. So all of this is going to be built on. All of it. And all of these bus interchange. It's apparently going to be sat at the front of Edgware Station, which defies logic. I don't quite know how they're going to do that, but you know, they're going to push it through either way. So there's the bus station as it is. This was put in the late 1980s, and they had to pull down some stuff to do that. Busy bus station, this. Let's walk you in through the bus station. And out again. Now, Edgware station, which is just behind that fencing, that's going to stay there because you can't do much about that. And that's the other reason why this proposal from Ballymore presumably is attractive, or is a good deal for them as far as they're concerned, because it means you've got a mass housing development right next to the tube station. It just happens to be the end of the line. So you can sell that to prospective investors, and that's the main thing about this development. It's going to be a lot of overseas developers, overseas investors who will be buying this stuff. So the people who will own the properties won't live here, almost certainly. The Chinese investors, Indian investors, Saudi investors, I don't know, but there's not going to be a lot of British ones, that's for sure. Notice the graffiti. This is another aspect of all this progress, this movement towards redevelopment, is because of the tiredness of Edgware, how run down it is, and that's a sign of its run downness. This mural was painted up about a year ago. This is linked in with Ballymore. I call it community washing. Basically what they've done is they've tried to brighten up what was a bare wall with some symbology which is supposed to make you think that it's all going to be nice. I don't know. I don't think it is, to be honest with you. There's Wen's also cleaned off all the graffiti on their sign eventually. It took them long enough. So this is Station Road still. And up until when this underground station was built and finished in 1924, this was just a sleepy little lane on its way to ultimately Mill Hill. So I'm now just going to do the front of the run to get over the road. Thank you, Mr. Bus Driver. Here we go, look. Here's the spiel, all ably supported by the Mayor of London and Barnet Council, but stuck behind a massive big advertising sign. Wonderful. Right, now, one thing I probably have bored you with before the previous video is this building here, okay, which was originally put up for Express Dairy, and it had another wing, but that was knocked out when they put this bus entrance in the 1980s. So basically, this side of the road here is going to stay untouched, well, for the time being. But the Ballymore development is going to see this building gone, including that nice Express Mansion sign, and all of this will go. The Broadwalk Shopping Centre, which, as you can see, this is a rejig done about 20 years ago, trying to freshen it up. Waste of money now. That's all going to be pulled down. You can see the neglect. This that's not been planted deliberately. That's just grown out of neglect. I forget what it's called. That used to be the site over there. Used to be the site of the cinema, which was closed about 25 years ago, and that put on its site. And as part of this Ballymore development, they're going to give Edgware a new cinema. Apparently, allegedly, but I wouldn't bank on it, to be honest with you, because these things often evaporate as soon as they're given planning permission. Suddenly, the amount of affordable houses go, affordable homes go, and then all the little trinkets go as well. Another sign, you want to see an outward sign of Edgware's managed decline, apart from what you see here, which is just, you know, weeds and everything. There's another shot of that block, which is completely unoccupied. Finished nearly a year ago, unoccupied. Because if it was occupied, there'd be stuff on those balconies, there'd be curtains, obvious signs of life, and there just isn't. Gosh, it's nearly 20 minutes this video now. Here's some more signs of neglect. Just turn around and show you. This shop was ram raided last weekend. I mean, what does that outward sign tell you about what Edgware is? Not good, is it? Because managed decline is a very, very clever way of being able to not spend money, which is what Barnet Council should have done, keeping somewhere looking neat and tidy and cared for. But then it just plays into the hands of a developer who'll say, hey, I can make it better. Well, I'm going to build loads of flats, but I'm going to make it better for you, and you won't have to spend anything. Funny thing is, they just had to hand over 41 million to the developers. Getting a bit of verbal off someone.